Welcome to Public Safety Talk Radio, the podcast for all of our heroes in public safety, including law enforcement professionals, firefighters, EMTs, corrections officers, healthcare workers, and more. The show is proud to be a part of the growing National Police Podcast Network. This episode is sponsored by Police Mortgage. Police Mortgage is a full-service mortgage company dedicated to serving police officers and first responders. Founded in 2008, Police Mortgage offers a variety of mortgage products tailored to meet the needs of those who serve and protect. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. And now for part 2 of our discussion with Dr. Kelsey Loftus on the job that never sleeps.
And like I said, a lot of it can be tailored back to specifically for firefighters and police officers too, is, how they carry their equipment. What kind of equipment do they have that they wear day in and day out? My favorite example is, if you were to guess, what do you think is one of the most common injuries I saw with canine handlers or canine officers? If you were just to guess.
It's interesting. I would think that maybe it would be like an arm or elbow issue with the dog constantly pulling. Yeah. Hey, I'm not as stupid as I look. Maybe I only got an MBA. Maybe I can get a PhD too.
So that's as easy as it is. It's just like, think about what do they do all day? It's having that traction being pulled on by this dog. So they had
a powerful dog too.
Exactly. I have a 90-pound German Shepherd. I know. That was when we got him about 5 years ago. My calves were screaming at me and my shoulders hurt all the time because it was having to walk with on your heels pulling him. Now he doesn't do that as much, but so it's as simple as that. Is that you kind of think of what does their job look like? Okay, this is probably what's attributing to this issue. So that's how I kind of approach working with different first responders, is just knowing what are their essential job functions, what do they have to do all the time that's putting stress and strain through their body, and then what can they do to almost hit the reset button when they get back from calls, which is really the biggest thing that I preach in my role with the fire department. Is every time they go on a call, they're kind of blowing everything up in their body. They're going to be in weird situations, they're going to be put under these weird stressors, or picking up really large human beings, or picking up a bunch of equipment, going up a bunch of flights of steps. But what can they do when they come back from the call to make sure that when they go on the next one, that's maybe just a fire alarm, they're not doing anything most of the time, that they're not going to bend over and try to pick up their Halligan bar and then their back gives out. So that's where I preach the good movement is really the most important thing. And a lot of firefighters, police officers, EMTs, paramedics, corrections officers, because these repetitive movements are so immobile, their joints are just getting totally locked up, they're guarding, they're weak, and they're having to do these really big tasks. And unfortunately, when they can't do these big tasks, someone in the body's got to do it. And most of the time it's going to be your rotator cuff that's maybe not supposed to be working at that point, or it's going to be your low back that's not really supposed to be being put under a heavy load like that. So once that picture kind of becomes clear, and thankfully, I have the motivation on my side of every single person knows someone that's been out for a year with a shoulder surgery. Almost everyone has someone on their crew that had a traumatic back, disc herniation or something, or they've had it themselves and they are so terrified of having that back injury again that they really take all that information to heart and they apply this, functional training or mobility into practice, because they know that's really what's going to extend their careers and make sure that they're not going to be crawling into retirement, which is really what I try to prevent. Is as much as I can get you to retirement and you can have a great life when you retire, that's amazing,
get to retirement and not be a complete cripple.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to retirement should be, and you
can actually go fishing, and
you can go get another job if you want to. My dad has another job after he retired. I mean, it's a desk job, but he still has the energy and the ability to work. My brother's a good example. He joined the fire department when he was 18, so he'll probably get to retire when he's in his 40s. You still have half of your life left at that point.
Yeah.
That I don't want it to be that he's ever at a point that he's so debilitated from years and years of this career, whether it be just because of the call volume or the sleep deprivation, which is a whole other conversation, that, he doesn't have the tools to be able to take care of himself and make sure that he is still able to be resilient to these stressors that he's being put under every single day.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that, because you are one of the featured speakers during the First Responder Conference that's coming up March 23rd, 24th in Ocean City, Maryland. Been there, great place. I don't really want to go there in March, but but summer probably. So you're one of the featured speakers during the First Responder Conference in Ocean City, Maryland, late March 2026. Give us a preview of what you're going to be teaching. Your subject is The Job That Never Sleeps: Realistic Sleep Health and Sleep Tracking for First Responders. Don't give us the whole thing, because we want people to actually go, but give us a little snippet about the wisdom you're going to be passing on.
Right. So actually, I have the pleasure of presenting twice.
Awesome.
So I'll be up there just yapping for forever about all the things. But sleep has been probably my biggest interest in the last year. And a lot of that has come down to, again, the root cause, like what is causing all of these issues in first responders. And a lot of it can be tied back to sleep. So when trying to talk with people about sleep or find research and science about sleep, if we were to go Google right now, my sleep is really bad, what do I do? It's pretty much like you either get 8 hours or you suck. Like, that's it. There's really not a lot of like, what do I do? Like, how can I combat that? Or maybe I can't get 8 hours. How am I supposed to deal with this? So that's kind of why I tailored the presentation to be like sleep health and sleep hacking, because you kind of have to hack that system of what can I do for my sleep to either make it better, or if I'm a firefighter that is on a 24-hour shift and I'm getting woken up for calls, or I'm a police officer or a corrections officer or a medic, an EMT, whatever the case is, and I'm being woken up at night, or I have a night shift, how am I supposed to make sure that I'm getting that proper sleep and recovery when sleep is not always within reach for people? It's the, uncontrollable thing. So a lot of the presentation is really giving the information on what sleep is, what happens while you sleep. I found that when explained to someone why sleep is so important and why, and how it connects to all the different portions of your life, it's really motivating for someone to be like, okay, yeah, I need to fix some of these things about my sleep habits at home, my sleep habits at work, whatever the case is. So a big chunk of it is kind of that science of sleep, what's really happening while you're sleeping. Because a lot of people just don't know. Everyone knows REM sleep, or like I have to get REM sleep, or I never dream, or I always wake up at 2 a.m. Like, we talk about all those different things and what is happening and what's so important during these stages. And then also tying it to these major problems that we're seeing in first responders, like cancer and cardiovascular issues, mental health, injury prevention and injury recovery, which is a big piece for me. So it's all interconnected within sleep. That sleep I kind of coin as it's the foundation for overall recovery. That you can try dealing with all these other things beforehand, but sleep is really what's going to always be the underlying issue. It's that root issue, similar to talking about the injury prevention piece. It's what is that root problem.
And now a word from our sponsor, Police Mortgage.
As a first responder, control matters on the job and at home. When it comes to buying or refinancing a house, Police Mortgage works specifically with first responders who want clear options, real guidance, and competitive rates. No confusion, no pressure, just experts who understand your world. Learn more at policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none.
And learn more about Police Mortgage from their podcast, The Mortgage Beat, another podcast in the National Police Podcast Network.
A lot of the presentation is the science, why it's happening, how it's interconnected with these major issues that we see in first responders, and then actually giving the people the information they need to be able to make a change. So like, what are those controllable factors that you can go home, that evening, if you're in your hotel room in Ocean City and you're attending this conference, what can you change about maybe that hotel room environment to make it an easier sleep environment for you, or what do you need to change maybe about your routine to make it that easier, make it that sleep is much easier for you. Because some people just struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep. And then, not just have it be that it's this conversation of you have to get 8 hours of sleep. Okay, turn off my presentation, keep going. No, there's other things you can do. There's so many other ways that you can hack into getting that recovery when, you might only get different small chunks of sleep or whatever the case is. So it's been really interesting. This presentation that I'm giving at this conference, I do at our fire stations in the county. And I found that people are giving me the feedback of my sleep has been better, or my mental health has been a lot better because I've dealt with my sleep issues that I've had at home, or I never realized that this was why I was waking up in the middle of the night. Now I've dealt with that. I'm not having that issue anymore. That it just has this global impact on that person just by having that education on what's happening, what can they do. There's actually been research that's shown in firefighters specifically, just having solely a sleep health education program decreases their risk of injury and taking disability and sick days. So literally just listening and learning about like what sleep health or sleep tips that you can try is automatically going to decrease your risk of taking more disability and sick days. So it's like you automatically see that change and that difference. And my hope is that people can kind of leave that presentation and have a little arsenal or a little toolbox of what they can do once they get home. That it's not just, oh, that presentation was kind of cool. Anyways, like I'm going to go to the next thing. Like it's like, oh, I have all these things that I just digested that I'm actually going to use. It's not just information that maybe just sits on the surface or goes over your head or, oh yeah, that was cool. You have everything you need to be able to make some kind of change. Like I've learned stuff about my own sleep health and, my sleep environment, all these things solely by just researching more into sleep. And I've given my husband, I mentioned this, I'm married to a cop too. So it's everywhere. Which you can imagine my dad was very happy about that. That was kind of the rewarding piece of that. But
yeah, he's either happy or saying, "Oh, not another cop."
Oh no, he was elated. He was thrilled. So
does he tell your husband at Christmas is you really should do the job this way?
No, thankfully my dad was he still is like incredibly helpful with my husband and stuff that he struggled with at work because he's got so many stories of all the different things that he's dealt with for the it feels like hundreds of years that he was in law enforcement, whether in the military or county government based. But he's the two of them watching how they kind of, I guess, talk with each other and stuff is just really fun and interesting. Thankfully, the more I've learned about working with firefighters, like my brother and I can kind of do that I understand his language. He kind of understands the police language, but it's almost like it's my husband and my dad versus me and my brother, which is kind of a fun like dynamic that, we both have all the fun. Like I'm wearing today, I'm wearing one of my sweatshirts from work and we have all the cool fire stuff and they always wear all their little police stuff that we're like on two different sides of the table, even though we're all, family.
That touch football game was probably really, really fun around the holidays.
There's a very, if you cannot tell, there's a very high competitive nature in our family. That's why I have all these degrees behind me. It's the instead of I'm going to go do a crazy high intensity job, I'm going to go to school for forever. And that's going to be my competition. And meanwhile, my brother has no student debt because he went into the fire department when he was 18. I have all the student debt. So,
there you go.
Who made the better choice here is really the question. Between the two of us.
So getting back into as we begin to wrap up a little bit here, I don't have your area of expertise, but you try to, just for myself, I'm an old man. I'm 56 years old. I'm trying to deal with, pain and sleep and all that other stuff. And fortunately, I don't have all the challenges that firefighters and police do. I could actually, for the most part, actually sleep a full 8 hours. So, I have the sleep tracker on my Fitbit and I look at that all the time. And, I try to shoot for, that 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but Yeah, and I think that this applies to the great folks that you work with. You know, getting 8 hours straight, is not always possible, maybe even
Oh,
rarely possible. So, I notice like sometimes, okay, I got a bad night, I only got 5 hours of sleep. I'm gonna make sure that, the people talk about sleep debt and everything. I'm gonna make that up a
mhm.
little bit. I'm gonna try to get 9 hours, on Saturday because I got nothing going on and I could sleep in. Is there some credence to that trying to build up and make up for sleep debt, or is that just erroneous?
No, sleep debt is definitely it's true. And I feel like with the normal population that's on shift work, it's very easy, or most of the time easy, depending on kids and family and all these things,
Right.
to be able to pay off some of that sleep debt. Like you said, you got 5 hours, tomorrow you're gonna try to get 9 hours because it's the weekend, you can sleep in. Whereas with first responders, like their debt could be in like the millions of dollars if we're thinking like money terms with
Right.
sleep, that that's kind of where that hacking comes in, that if you can sleep in when you're coming off shift, if it's for a firefighter, then that's great. Like if you can take a 30-minute or a 90-minute nap, you're kind of paying off a little bit of that debt, that if maybe the shift before you only got really it's going to be like 4 or 5 hours, same thing as what you just explained. Taking naps the next day, being able to go to bed a little bit earlier on that first day that they're off, sleeping in that first day that they're off the following day. That yeah, it's like you're continuously paying off that debt, or doing the things necessary to make sure that when you're getting off of shift, you can have that recovery period that you need, whether you're a firefighter coming off a 24-hour shift, or you are a police officer and work night shift, or whatever the case is. That yeah, the sleep debt is definitely a real thing, that if you're able to continuously pay that off, or have a good routine that you're making sure that you're having that recovery period, then that's great. So I personally deal with that. I know if I don't get at least 7 hours, like I notice it. I notice it almost
Hmm.
immediately. Like my mood is usually not great, which we talk about that in my presentation. My nutrition's a really big thing with sleep. People don't realize that research has shown that if you get, I have this specifically in my presentation. I believe it's if you get less than 5 to 6 hours of sleep consecutively, or even just in one night, your calorie intake the next day could go up by 300, 400 calories. So, like, you have to eat more when you're sleeping less. So, when we talk about like the obesity issue or the weight issue in first responders, it's like, well, if you're not getting good sleep, your body wants more calories. So, how are you going to lose weight? Because you're constantly packing on these calories, and your brain
Right.
wants these carb heavy foods because it's got so little energy. So, yeah, the sleep debt is a really big piece that I think is important, and also is part of kind of that hacking structure of naps. I love a good tactical nap or safety nap, or I have a station that calls it their what was it tactical readiness drill. When they're
Hmm.
taking their tactical readiness drill, that's their nap time. So, and it's really like, sleep is not just like a wellness thing, it's an operational like
Right.
need. Like you can't be expected to do these crazy feats at your job if you're not physically, mentally, emotionally there for it. We have,
Hmm.
I mean, you've probably experienced it too. I think everyone has probably had at least once, if you're super tired and you drive home and you have no idea how you got home. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
obviously, that's not good. That happens at calls too, for police officers and for firefighters. Like, we've had people that have been driving the ambulance that fall asleep at a red light, and they wake up and it's like 3 cycles later in the middle of the
Yeah.
night. That yeah, as much as you can get those naps, sleep in a little bit, off going from your shift, or you're off for those couple of days. Like my husband, he works a 2-2-3 schedule. He's off. Today's his first day off from his cycle, so he's off today, tomorrow, Sunday. Since we're both sick, he's like, I cannot wait to sleep all day on Saturday. I'm gonna sleep in on Saturday and Sunday. Like those are his 3 days of just pure recovery. That he's catching up on sleep from getting up early, working a 12-hour shift, getting home late, doing the cycle again, all these things.
Right.
So the sleep debt is definitely real, and there is a way to kind of pay some of it off too.
So it almost sounds like you wouldn't do the job dehydrated without water. Why do the job without, really concentrating on taking care of that sleep need?
Right, exactly. And that's, I mean, a huge part of it too is just, it's not not just the sleep, it's all the other pieces that combine into it. Like hydration's a really big piece with fatigue too, is, the American population, we're chronically dehydrated just to begin with.
Not me. I drink tons of these all day long. I drink my half a pot of coffee in the morning, and then it's water for the rest of the day.
Right. Versus, a lot of first responders, it's the coffee and the energy drinks and all these things, which yes, there's water in them, but you're probably not getting technically like coffee. Like I always add in, like, if you had a 16-ounce cup of coffee, like you technically had 16 ounces of water because it's water in there. Where do you think the coffee is being filtered through? So, but a lot of it is, when people are hitting that slump at 2-3 o'clock, whether they're on shift, they're at home, whatever, people are going to reach for that caffeine source, not think, okay, I probably need a nap, or I'm dehydrated, or I haven't eaten enough. So I always have people in the fire department, I'm like, all right, think of those 3 things. Are you tired? Like, do you need a nap? How much sleep did you get? Are you hungry? Have you not had carbs? Or are you dehydrated? So I've had a couple people that have started throwing in like a stick of some kind of, electrolyte, like liquid IV, drip drop, any of those things.
Right.
And they feel after that, they kind of get that boost of energy because they were dehydrated. And then they're not reaching for that extra Monster energy drink or, 3 more cups of coffee, whatever the case is, that they've started to kind of make those changes, or they go take a 20-minute nap if they're able to while they're working, or if they're at home, and then they're like, oh yeah, I feel better now. And I didn't need that huge jump of a caffeine source, and I got it the natural way, so
right.
It's a little less intense too.
Right. So I literally could talk to you for like another hour, maybe even more, because there's, so much involved. There's the physical, there's the nutrition, the sleep, and so forth. But eventually you've got to get your rest, and too, and we reserve the right to bring you back for some of those other subjects here on Public Safety Talk Radio.
Oh, for sure.
But we'll wrap up with this, which is kind of a different version of how I've asked a number of experts. Sometimes I ask, "What's your number one tip?" or so forth. But I'll change that up a little bit for those folks that are going into the academy, going to be a young police officer, a young firefighter, and it's on my mind now because my local police department was so proud that they've got like 98 new guys and gals that are coming in, and I think that's awesome. And I see a nice jump in public safety professionals wanting to be in that job for the right reason. So my question is, for those folks that, maybe they're starting in their teens, 20s, maybe even early 30s to take on this career, is there a number one thing that you can tip or advice that you can give them as you start this career, given that it's going to be physically taxing, start this habit, and it will make a big difference in your 20 to 30 year career if you do this now and you do this regularly?
I would say, so I get to talk to our recruit classes. I'm one of the first faces they see day one when they're all freaking out and sitting in the classroom, not knowing what's going to be coming at them. One of the first things I say is the habits that you make now are going to stick with you for your career. So if you have like a really crappy sleep, kind of relationship with sleep, or relationship with food, or relationship with fitness now, like, that needs to change. Like, you need whatever habits that you can form now, those are really what's going to stick, because the academy is the probably hardest part of your career. Like, they're trying to make it as uncomfortable as possible for you so that you can get comfortable being uncomfortable. We say that almost every single day to the recruits that I work with is, are you injured or are you sore? You're probably really sore because you're doing a lot of crazy stuff every single day, because we want you to be uncomfortable so that this job is easier for you. But really it's making those positive habits now, taking care of your sleep health now, figuring out, why has my sleep been struggling? Why have I had this negative relationship with sleep? Or, if food is a big thing, trying to get into a better eating style or eating habits that can sustain you. And then, hydration, all the other pieces too, mental health. Like this is a huge thing is, you shouldn't have to seek out mental health when you have an event. You should kind of be in a proactive mindset with mental health. That my husband and I are both in that boat. I have had things that have happened in my life. He's had things in his life and his career, but we have that backing with our therapy and mental health, that we have the tools to be able to deal with it. So that's something I tell them too. We have a great mental health team, mental wellness team with the fire department that I'm like, they're available to you, but you have insurance now. Some of these 18-year-olds, I'm like, you got pretty good insurance now. Go find a therapist, get, yourself in that good headspace, because you're going to be tested every single day for multiple hours and be put to your limit in this academy, that it's important that you're able to cope with it and have that mental strength, because, you're going to have to push through a lot of big struggles. So it's kind of meeting yourself and seeing how you approach those main pillars of health, of, physical, mental, emotional, sleep, nutrition, all those big pieces. It's kind of like sitting with yourself and realizing, okay, what do I need to work on? So that way I'm in a good spot when I graduate, and then I'm, thrust into this shift work schedule or whatever your career is going to be after this academy. So it's really being able to make good habits now. I wish I had like a, token of like, yeah, go do this and it's going to make everything really easy for you. But it's
Well,
like,
yeah,
it's everyone's different. Everyone's
we're all looking for the silver bullet, Doc. But
right.
yeah, that for your edification, I was expecting a good answer, and that was a much better answer than I even expected.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's kind of like saying, it's like answering without answering. It's like, you got to go work on yourself is really the biggest
Yeah.
piece. Like I would love if I could sit down and be like, okay, you got to eat this food and you got to do this kind of workout with us. And then you got to, make sure that you sleep in this kind of environment. But it's like, everyone is so different. And a lot of it is just what makes sense to you, which is really the biggest challenge with recruit classes. Is everyone's coming from so many different walks of life or backgrounds or previous careers, or they're literally graduated high school like 2 months ago.
Right.
We have people in this recruit class currently that are in their 40s, and we have someone that's 55. Like, this is his whole second life, is being in this department. And that was a big conversation of like, what do you need to be successful? Because, you've had a whole life before this versus the 18-year-old over here who's, can barely tie their shoes. Like, what can we do for you to make it, a better experience for you? And some of it can be as easy as, oh, I really struggle with my eating habits and I'm not eating well before I come in and PT for 2 hours at 7 a.m. It's like, okay, what can we do about that? Like, let's make that a healthy habit for you, that it sustains you. It makes it that you can perform a little bit easier while you're here. And then you keep that with you when you're, assigned to your station, and you start that, 20 plus year season is what I tell people, like the tactical athlete. Like, if you're playing sports in high school and college, you might have, 8 years of, a season or a career,
Right.
versus for these first responders, like that's 20 years. So what can you do now to make it that 20 years is maybe just a little bit easier for you?
Right. Right. Yeah. It does my heart good that you said that there's a 55-year-old that's starting a first responder career. I'm 56, so there's still a chance
it's
for
possible.
me. I got to work on the tricep and the back thing that are chronic injuries, but other than that, maybe the headspace isn't quite right. But Doc, you have been awesome. Lot of great information there. Before we let you go, for those folks out there, hopefully they're going to see you speak at the First Responder Conference in Ocean City, Maryland in late March. Hopefully they won't skip that or take a nap during your presentation. But if they're not at that particular event, how can they best get a hold of a Dr. Kelsey Loftus to speak, to do anything to possibly help out their department?
Yeah, so I would say this is kind of part of the presentation that I give about the injury prevention with first responders is, departments have athletic trainers. Like, we are everywhere. We work in sports. We're graduating from master's programs now. Like, there are people that are just like me that are either working in a setting or they really want to work with first responders. And really the catch-all point for that is the Public Safety Athletic Trainers Society. So they are a society specifically made up of athletic trainers that want to work in public safety, or like myself that currently work in public safety, that they are a great resource for, trying to figure out how I get an athletic trainer for my department. We're having a big issue with injury prevention or just overall health. What do I do about that? That they have a lot of great resources. Their administrative board is really amazing too. I used to sit on it as well, and they've done a really great job of kind of helping these departments or people that are interested in having someone like me go through the steps to be able to make that possible. If people want to reach out to me directly, they can through my personal email. It's just my first and then my maiden last name, which is Tandler. Kelsey Tandler, Tanler @outlook.com. I always love talking to people about my job. Like you've said, we've got little time, but I could just yap and yap for forever because I know I see the impact that having an athletic trainer has on a department. And, you know, big or small, we're obviously a really big department. So is Fairfax, who I, had experience with before. But, if you have a department of like 100 people and you're having all of this money spent on a back injury and it's just from like 3 people, like that's easy. Like I could save you all that money real quick. That it's really, those are things that Public Safety Athletic Trainer Society is a really great resource for everything that you could possibly think of in terms of this realm. They do a lot of great presentations too, on a variety of different topics for law enforcement, EMS, fire, rescue, all those different settings that, if anyone is even just curious about any different variety of topics, in this realm, they have a really great, continuing education library that you can go and access for I think it's like $30 for the year, which is crazy for all the resources that they have. I presented with them as well. But yeah, that's kind of, if you want to reach out to me directly or through them, they're a great resource too.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that resource, and thank you for spending so much time with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Like I said, I could keep going. Like, yapping.
we may very well, have like 4 or 5 more episodes with you, but for now, it's been our pleasure to have you, Doc.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, and thank you to all of you who've either watched or listened to this episode of Public Safety Talk Radio, and we'll be back with you next week with another great guest.
Public Safety Talk Radio is produced by Bader Training and Consulting. Public Safety Talk Radio is also proud to be a part of the growing National Police Podcast Network. The National Police Podcast Network is a dedicated media network powered by the National Police Federal Credit Union, developed in partnership with experienced podcast professionals and public safety advocates. Learn more about the National Police Federal Credit Union at nationalpolicefcu.com.